Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to this day. Whatever time it is for you. Good midday, good evening, good day. This is Love Morning. I am John Halcyon. This is our opportunity for connection and for gratitude. Maybe just a refresh. Maybe a chance to go, okay, I'm going to shake it off and start anew. And one of the best ways I know how to start fresh is to force myself to sing a song. And it goes a little like this one does. And if you don't know what to rhyme with that, just because it goes fun does. Muzz, luzz, fuzz, fuzz. That song is already a bust. What should I do with it? I'll make a risky move and say it sounded like shit. Welcome to Love Morning. Yeah. Okay, good morning. Good morning, Kiri. Good to see you. And good morning, Gerbot. Good morning. I am grateful that I am not in the middle of a disaster. I am grateful that I'm dealing with some loud construction next door and will need to leave the house shortly. But it is so much easier to deal with than a disaster. I got a text from Betsy, my co-host for Stay Sparked. She is in Helen's path. She is if you listen to our latest shows, she is moved there, and she had a plane ticket to go last Friday. So it hit, and then she joined her partner there in the middle of all the rubble. And she said, she's like, how about this for a topic for our next episode? How to stay sparked when the town you just moved to has been plummeted by a hurricane. The water will be off for the next 2+ months. Pretty much everything is closed until water returns, and all your favorite hiking trails are either destroyed or closed for the unforeseeable future. Still working on that. Staying hopeful. Love you guys. And I'm like, wow. Think about that. Think about how many aspects of what baseline life are not there. Nearly every aspect of what just made the day run smoothly or brought joy, like a hike or water, for those things to not be givens, those things to be uncertain or impossible. Wow. I really can't get my head around it. But I am using it as an opportunity to once again be grateful for my problems. So appreciate this struggle with construction noise, the struggle with finding the next place to live. Good morning, Juan. Good morning, Juan Pablo. Kiri is grateful for intimacy and connection today. Good morning, Michael. Gerbot says, I'm so grateful for the local weatherman, Mark Finnan, who even after retiring from KCRA 3, continues to do a morning weather report on YouTube, even while on his road trip to Wyoming to see the fall colors. Oh, that's cool. Very cool. Good morning, Tall Paul. Good to see you. Hello, Celeste. Gerbot says, grateful for my small problems. Good morning. What was I just thinking about? I had an interesting experience this morning where a good friend of mine, a former coach, had a link to an Instagram reel and said, this really sums up kind of the bulk of what I've learned as a human being on a seeking path. And it was this beautiful, I was like, wow, this is really nailing it. And it's Alan Watts' voice, and it talks about the importance of finding your enoughness and coming from a place of enoughness and creating the power of questioning the voices saying that you're not enough, being enough in the world, and the ripples and how that helps everyone. We lift each other up as we reject the idea that we're not enough. That's a poor summing up. But anyways, it was beautiful, and it was Alan Watts, and I'm like, this is great. And I actually like got my phone out and put it in like transcribe and had it like, I want this quote. Like I want to use this quote in something. And it was long, so it was recorded. It was like, typing it out. And I'm like, kind of like, I'm surprised I've never heard this before. And in my friend's post, he's like, anyone know who this is? I'm like, it's Alan Watts. And then I go to the comments on the original post on Instagram, and there's people saying, it sounds like Alan Watts, I'm like, it's definitely Alan Watts. And then more, they're saying like, I think this is AI using Alan Watts' voice, because he's never said these words. And I was like, whoa, I think they're right. I mean, the inflection, the voice, it doesn't sound like an AI. It doesn't sound abrupt or weird. It sounds like Alan Watts is saying this beautiful words. And because it's Alan Watts, it has so much weight to it. He's earned my respect in so many ways. So to have Alan Watts talking about these things in ways that I've talked about things, I'm like, oh my gosh. And it actually, as I was listening, I was like, yikes. This feels like a summary of, like, I might send people to this. Alan Watts saying these things is more powerful than me saying it. And the more I'm looking into it, I'm like, I don't think Alan Watts said this. I think this is AI saying Alan Watts' words. And so now we have the problem, this challenge of, it is really, the words are good, but it still feels wrong, like to link it or to reshare it, because it feels dishonest. It feels irresponsible to just say like, well, it doesn't really matter who says it, because it's misleading. Just like I gave it additional weight because I thought it was Alan Watts. You're tricking people, and you're starting to erode that subtle fabric of trust and reality. So I mean, this is going to be happening more and more and more and more. I commented on the comment, I'm like, hey, can you confirm that this is your original words? Because I would like to be able to share these words, but not if I'm going to contribute to the misleading of people. If it's your words, great. I'll say this is so-and-so's words with Alan Watts' voice. That, I'm okay with that clarity, but to unconsciously or consciously trick people, give weight to people, or to take weight away from people, like you could do the exact same thing with Donald Trump's voice and have him say something stupid. Although you wouldn't really need to use an AI generator to make that happen. You could just find a quote. But I digress, and I don't mean to be shallow. Good morning, Razorblade. Right? Isn't that fascinating? Curious says, silly John, the words aren't more impactful coming from Alan Watts than you, if you truly embrace your enoughness. Well, and then Curious says, does having AI read it in his voice contradict the message of embracing one's enoughness? Rhetorical. Why not record it with your own voice if you are enough? Good questions. I think that I'm going through something right now where I am not feeling, it's not that I'm not feeling enough. I'm not feeling like I am deep enough in my practices that I feel qualified to be role modeling to the point of teaching, like there are times in my life when I say, hey, I look at how I'm living. This is a demonstration of how to be in purpose and feel great about yourself and wake up happy and energized and do good in the world. And I have not been feeling anchored in that lately, and so it does feel, it's like it's difficult to and it's a question, like, is that enoughness? Like, do I have, can I feel like I'm enough, but also feel like I'm not in a position to tell anyone else what to do or give any guidance? Because that feels, and that's, I think, one of my problems with Alan Watts. Like, Alan Watts has earned my respect. Alan Watts has done the study, done the work, and it's within a like, I know enough of his voice and his experience to know the window of respect. I also know that he died an alcoholic, so he's not like a guru and a god, he's a man who really did a lot of study and studied enough different faiths and culled information from enough places that I go, okay, like, his perspectives are utilizing an understanding of a breadth of sources that I trust that within the context of, and I also know that he didn't have it so figured out that he wasn't tormented by addiction. And so to have, when the words come from an unknown place, they're still good words, but I may be less likely to, like, pass them on. I find them more like, these are good ideas that I can ingest and learn from, and yes, maybe say it in my own way. But I might not quote somebody who I don't know exactly. I don't know. It's a really good question. Curie says, that raises a question for me about the person who wrote the quote. Does it lose value if the person that wrote it doesn't embody the message? I think so. To me, it does. Because, and this is something that I struggle with, like, it's one thing, there is value to taking a bunch of information or learning things, going, this does make sense, and then restating it. You can go to a million Instagram accounts that basically regurgitate wisdom that they've learned in workshops, that those people learned from workshops, that those people learned from a handful of personal growth ideas, from How to Make Friends and Influence People and Tony Robbins, and there's some some Alan Watts, and so there is value to that, and it is different than someone who is saying, like, I have stepped away, I have reached success in the business world, I have stepped away from that world, I'm using my talents to be of service to the world in this way. I encountered addiction to food and alcohol, and I am now in a state of recovery from those things. And from all of these challenges, I was married and I raised a kid, and we struggled with separation, and now I've helped someone, bury my parents. And through all of this, these are the lessons that I've lived that feel resonant and true. To me, that's a different message. They both have value, but the handbook to a good life that is personal feels more valuable to me than simply words that I know to be good and true. Really, that's actually helpful that I said that out loud, because as I'm writing my book and struggling with, like, because sometimes I'm like, I will sometimes write I, and sometimes you, and we. And I'm like, how do I write this? And I'm like, well, I think I just answered my question. I'm going to write I, and include a bunch of the struggles and stumbles and doubt. And then if you're someone like me, you will appreciate that perspective as a well-worn, real handbook to a life versus a polished collection of wisdom. Gerbot sharing, it really shows how we make sense of the world when we have these amazing tools that can be used to exploit our biases without even recognizing it. Yes! And that's, again, so relevant. I've been writing a ton about biases. And it's so true. Like, that would be a really interesting study, is have like that media piece I just said, and have the exact same words written or spoken by a woman's voice, by a voice with different ethnic accents, and then have people evaluate the words and see if there is a statistically significant, I mean, I guess the answer is it's going to be obvious, but they could be curious how. Like, do people automatically assume someone that sounds like them is more trustworthy? Do some people assume that the British accent is more trustworthy? Do people assume that if it's, does a woman think a woman is more, the words are more powerful? That'd be interesting. It's related to the honors project, the psychology paper that I got published when I was in college. I did one on basically how much trust do we give the government, really? Like, do we assume that if something is illegal, that means it's bad for you? If they say it's legal, do we trust that means it's safe? And this is the same kind of idea, except for instead of government, it's like, what is our bias about different ethnicities and genders? And that's interesting idea. Anyone else want to share any gratitude for today before we move on? Good morning, Brent. Curious, and I love this conversation. It's validating for my own journey with coaching. Sometimes I feel like an imposter, but I truly do embody the messages I share. I'm not perfect, but I don't have to be. Totally. I think that you are witnessing you walking the walk is a really powerful thing. I talked to someone recently who said that they've got a mentor who answers every question with happiness and joy, and everything is good. Everything is, there's everything is the right answer as far as their attitude, and never getting frustrated or ruffled or never, and my friend said, I find myself energized by them, but I also find myself, I don't feel connected, and I end up being kind of like resentful, kind of must be nice kind of feeling. And I think that there are some people who do want to work with and be inspired by a coach that says, I am never flustered, I always get it right. And I think that there are other people that want to witness your struggle, and also witness your victories as a way to be inspired to work through their own struggles and find their own victories. Gerbot says, I would also put Terence McKenna's voice on that same pedestal of respect. That would be good. I mean, that would be so awesome. His voice is so kind of weird, and it would be an interesting, I was just in terms of the experiment, it would be interesting to see how people analyze different voices if you know who it is or if you don't know who it is. Because they do have a certain resonance of confidence in it. But I think it'd be interesting to see like how do different voices, or if they show you a picture with a voice and you say, oh, this is a old white dude, therefore I bet I would unconsciously assume a certain degree of authority. I think a lot of people would. Versus, a young person or someone who looks like they're old white dude in a suit versus someone who looks like they're kind of more casual and not affluent. All right, we're going to start a scientific study. Kiri says authenticity over positivity every time. Boom. Brent, sharing a little gratitude. Thanks for bringing us back on the gratitude train. Grateful to be through the storm. Woo! No damage, no high water, only generator power now. We're between Daytona and Cape Canaveral. Awesome. I've seen people definitely affected by weather, but nothing disastrous that I've seen from people I know this morning. So that's really good to hear. Gerbot is grateful for my late mother, for all that she gave me and the time I got to share with her on this first anniversary of her passing. Thanks, Gerbot. I am grateful for my parents. May try to see them. Actually, maybe today's not going to work, but and grateful for my partner. We went to have a really nice dinner last night. Grateful for a yummy dinner after looking at a potential place to live. And grateful for a sunny day. Grateful for a body that's not in a lot of pain. Grateful for a little walk this morning and friendly neighbors I got to say hello to. Painey is grateful for the block button on Facebook. Things be getting strange in the Circle K parking lot and Facebook, for sure. Anyone want to share any last gratitudes before we head up into our days and work on our authenticity over our positivity? Wherever you are, let's give ourselves a big squeeze. Appreciate this moment, this body, these connections, the reminder of all that is good, the reminder of the value of our struggles, the reminder of the connection that happens through our vulnerability and our truth. As we take a deep breath in and squeeze. On behalf of Grandpa Caleb and all of you beautiful love ambassadors, thanks for being here today for our love morning, our love day, our ambassador meetup, and our Hug Nation collection. Thank you, Gerbot, who's grateful for his health. Joyous, who's grateful for honesty and authenticity and grateful to keep practicing both. Thanks for everyone who's been here this morning.